Eventually, the two had sex, she said, but as she began to describe that encounter, the sexual encounter, that's when the defense objected and the judge sustained the objection.
The judge has warned the prosecution, particularly when talking about the sexual encounter, that we don't need all the details here.
The judge really doesn't want to go over a line that where the details become so prejudicial that it's unfair to the defendant.
A big day in the hush money trial against Donald Trump, where the woman really at the center of the big controversy involving the hush money payments, Stormy Daniels, testified in court. Now, in her testimony to the prosecution, Daniels explained her history with Donald Trump, how they met, including her sexual encounter with him back in 2006. Now, that part of her testimony drew multiple objections from the judge overseeing the case. Of course, that's Judge Juan Merchan. And the New York Times described what she said as follows. Daniels' testimony was incredibly uncomfortable at various points, sometimes lurid in detail, and she repeatedly went further than the judge wanted her to, prompting him to curtly tell her at least twice to stick to the question. Daniels also mocked Trump several times in ways that felt discordant to the story she was telling. There were other issues as well. For instance, she was like cracking jokes at the witness stand, which according to reports, the jury did not react to. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. It seems like the jury is taking their job very seriously and they're not looking to show their hand. But at the same time, you gotta consider the charges that Trump is facing here. So he is accused of falsifying documents in order to cover up a crime. And the crime in this case is, campaign finance violations that were committed as a result of his fixer or former fixer, Michael Cohen, paying hush money to Stormy Daniels in 2016. And so look, the only reason why I think they had her on the witness stand, Cenk, to ask her questions about their sexual relationship is because Trump has denied that they ever had sex. And so the prosecution kind of justified questioning Stormy Daniels at the stand, having her testify to really home in on the relationship that she had with Trump. But I'm uncertain as to whether or not any of her testimony is actually helpful in proving that Trump intended to commit this crime, intended to pay the hush money payment through Michael Cohen and then falsify documents in order to cover up the crime. That's the kind of testimony that's super relevant to this case if you're looking to find Trump guilty.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. Yeah, there's a couple of different things that went wrong today in my opinion. And I'm with the judge who seemed angry and irritated at the prosecution and Stormy Daniels today because look, I think prejudicing a jury is overrated overall, and I've said that throughout every case we've ever covered. But if you care about that issue, there's nothing more prejudicial than getting into different kinds of sex acts that somebody had with an adult actress while they were married to their wife, etc. And it's not pertinent to this case. The only thing that's pertinent is, did they sleep together? Did he then pay her hush money and falsify business records to make that happen? How they had the sex is entirely irrelevant. All the seedy details of it, I mean, look, all over cable news, they're giggling about it. And they're like, it feels to me like they're so happy to hear all of these
It's so dumb. And honestly, when it comes to showing your hand, I think the media certainly is today by like salivating over like the salacious details of her testimony without really considering how today was not helpful for any case looking to find Trump guilty of committing a crime here.
Yeah, so it's not helpful in a couple of different ways. And so number one, if you're on the jury and you're hearing a person who now you're beginning to wonder, wait, what's going on here? So why is she telling us like all these salacious details when it's not necessarily pertinent? And then she said that she didn't necessarily consent. She didn't say no, but she blacked out and doesn't remember consenting, etc., which she's never said before.
Yeah.
And okay, look, if that's true, that's kind of huge, but totally different case. But you can't just, I don't know, man, saying that in front of the jury when that's not what this case is about, not helpful. And then the defense gets to say she's never said that before, and all of a sudden she comes on the trial and says this. That seems weird. The judge had to tell them don't talk about genitalia, like his genitalia.
Yeah, no, it was.
Come on.
Absurd. It really. I mean, again, this testimony is not necessary or important in proving that Trump has committed the crime that he has been charged with here or indicted for. Prosecutor Susan Hoffinger told or says that Stormy Daniels' testimony was necessary to show that Donald Trump's motive for the hush money scheme and cover-up was that, look, the story is so salacious that this is precisely what the defendant did not want to become public. I mean, you could just, I think everyone knows why Trump didn't want the story to become public, right? Like he cheated on his wife, who I believe was pregnant at the time, with Stormy Daniels.
No, she wasn't pregnant at the time of Stormy Daniels.
Was it Karen McDougal?
I think that, I forget if it was McDougal or Daniels, but right after Melania delivered, he went to go see them.
Oh, I see.
And then when Melania was pregnant, he tried to hook up with a reporter that had come, and she was upstairs. She interviewed them together, and then when Melania went upstairs, Trump cornered her, according to her, cornered her and then tried to grab her, right?
Okay, that's not, honestly, that's enough of a reason for Trump not to want the salacious details to come out, right? Like we don't need to hear about his genitalia on the witness stand, but we do need to hear testimony that proves that Trump knew about the hush money payments, that he facilitated the reimbursement to Michael Cohen, that he forged documents or engaged in falsifying documents. And so what's interesting is the testimony prior to Stormy Daniels today was helpful in building that case, because the testimony consisted of individuals who work closely with Trump saying that he's a micromanager as it pertains to business matters, and that he's involved in every minor detail, which, to be quite honest with you, is tough for me to believe considering how he operated as president. But that testimony, again, is much more powerful in proving the case that the prosecutors are alleged to want to prove here.
Yeah, and so look, did he falsify the business records? That's what this trial is about. As I've said many times, definitely. There's almost no question that he falsified them. I think that the only way that he gets off is if the jury feels sympathy for him and goes, yeah, he falsified the business records, but it was embarrassing. And I don't know that he did it for political reasons. Maybe he did it because he didn't want his wife to know what kind of a terrible, disgusting human being he is.
I couldn't help but think about what happened to Bill Clinton when he was impeached, right? I thought about how that impeachment process made Bill Clinton this sympathetic figure in the eyes of a lot of Americans, including those who disagreed with him politically. There's someone sitting on this set right now who identified as a Republican at the time, right?
Yeah.
And you actually started to feel sympathy for Bill Clinton based on what they were putting him through. So you have to consider that when it comes to what the jury heard today from Stormy Daniels, who, by the way, when the defense had an opportunity to cross-examine her, they asked whether she hates Trump, and she said, yeah, I hate Trump. Which makes it appear that this is, motivated by a personal vendetta or a personal, targeting of Trump.
So why is she doing it? There's a couple of different possibilities. One is what Anna just explained. Two is for political reasons, they want as much damaging information about Trump out in the public as they possibly can. And number three, Stormy Daniels might feel embarrassed that she was with Donald Trump. So she wants to say, hey, not really, right? And so, and by the way, reason number four might be that it's true, that she did go through all of that and she didn't know, et cetera, et cetera. But this is not the context in which to discuss that. Anna, you're so right about that, because back then I'm a Republican. They do this BS impeachment of Clinton, and I remember saying, look, wasn't on any jury. That's very different, right? But I was like, look, I get it, man. He slept with Monica Lewinsky. I get that he lied about it, and that's technically perjury. but they invested a guy for a real estate thing and then they smeared him on a sex thing. And this is just garbage. This is total garbage. And yeah, it made me have sympathy for Bill Clinton. I don't want that to happen for Donald Trump accidentally because people have their own personal agendas or political agendas. Just do the trial on the facts. He definitely falsified the business records. Stick to that. And then one last thing about the media. I read in several headlines that Trump pushed his lawyer today. And I was like, even for Trump, I'm like, that has a very low chance of being true. I read into the details. He nudged her at different points because that's his lawyer. Jesus. Come on, guys. Come on, man.
So just to talk a little more about the lawyer and how she handled the cross-examination with Stormy Daniels. So Trump lawyer Susan Nickels asked Daniels if she hates Trump, and Daniels said yes. I wanted to give you the details on that because I think that testimony might actually hurt the case against Trump. Asked if she wants Trump to go to jail, Daniels said that she wants him to be held accountable, and if he is found guilty, absolutely. At that point, Trump's lawyer also suggests that Daniels aims to make money in some of her pursuits, and Daniels fires back, "Don't we all want to make money for ourselves?" Now, Stormy Daniels was also asked about a tweet about Donald Trump back in 2022, where she said, "I'll never give that orange turd a dime." Daniels said that the tweet is in retaliation for what he said to me, yes. Trump's lawyer confirmed, "You call him names all the time," and Daniels says yes. So you see what the strategy here is by the defense to basically discredit Stormy Daniels and her testimony by making it apparent that she is targeting Trump based on a personal grudge or beef that she has with Trump. I don't know how well that's gonna play with the jury, but if you're seeing this celebratory nature in the coverage in the corporate media or legacy media, just be careful, because I don't personally think that her testimony was all that helpful for the prosecution today.
Yeah, the Hope Hicks testimony was very mixed too, and they made it seem like, oh my God, that's it, Trump is toast after Hope Hicks. No, not necessarily. She said some things that were damaging to Trump and some things that were exculpatory. So last thing though, guys, Trump never helps his own case because he's so absurd and out of control. To this day, he's denying that they had sex.
I know, and I
think no one believes that. Not even the most MAGA dude on earth. That guy will tell you, oh, of course they had sex, and that's because Trump's an alpha male and he's allowed to have sex with whoever he wants, et cetera, et cetera. But zero people in America believe that Donald Trump did not have sex with Stormy Daniels.
Exactly, so he should have just taken ownership of that, because at that point, the testimony about their sexual details would not have, I don't think that would have happened. Right?
Yeah, if he just said, yeah, we did have sex, then there's actually no point in bringing Stormy Daniels on to testify at all.
Unless she has some insight into how the hush money payment was carried out or how the reimbursement to Michael Cohen was carried out, but that's not what the testimony was about, clearly.
Yeah, or at least a great majority of it.
Right, exactly.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.